Solving quadratic equations by taking the square root. Equations in vertex form and equations without a linear term can be solved by taking the square root. The steps for this method are 1. To isolate the squared expression, 2. To take the square root of both sides, 3. To write and solve two equations, and 4. To simplify any resulting answer. In the first example, the first step is to isolate x squared. Start by adding 81 to both sides. Now divide both sides by 4. X squared is now alone. X squared equals 81 divided by 4. Take the square root of both sides. Make sure to write a plus or minus on the right side since every perfect square has two roots, a positive and a negative. The square root of 81 is 9, the square root of 4 is 2, so the two answers are positive 9/2 and negative 9/2. In the second example, isolate x squared by first adding 6 to both sides. Now divide by 4. X squared is now alone. X squared equals 8. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of 8 can be simplified. X equals plus or minus 2 square root of 2. So the two answers are 2 square root of 2 and negative 2 square root of 2. In the next example, subtract 43 from both sides. Now divide both sides by 9. We now have x squared equals a negative 4. No perfect square ever equals a negative, so there are no solutions. Whenever you get to the point in the equation where the x squared equals a negative number, there will be no solutions. Now pause the video and try the next one yourself. Now that you have tried it, check your work. First, isolate x squared. X squared equals 18. Now take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus the square root of 18. Simplify your answer. Final answer is positive 3 square root of 2 and negative 3 square root of 2. In the next example, the squared expression is inside parentheses. To isolate it, start by adding 2 to both sides. Now divide both sides of the equation by 3. The squared expression is now isolated. X minus 5 squared equals 30. Take the square root of both sides. The square root of x minus 5 squared equals plus or minus the square root of 30. We have x minus 5 equals plus or minus the square root of 30, but we are not done because x still needs to be isolated. So add 5 to both sides. X equals 5 plus or minus the square root of 30. The two solutions are 5 plus the square root of 30 and 5 minus the square root of 30. Now pause the video and try the last example yourself. Now that you have tried it, check your work. First add 19 to both sides of the equation. Now 4x minus 3 squared equals 25. Take the square root of both sides. 4x minus 3 equals plus or minus 5. Add 3 to both sides. 4x equals 3 plus or minus 5. Now divide both sides by 4. X equals 3 plus or minus 5 over 4, so there are two solutions. X equals 3 plus 5 over 4, which comes out to 8 divided by 4, or 2, and x equals 3 minus 5 divided by 4, which is negative 2 over 4, or negative 1/2. The two solutions are 2 and negative 1/2. Remember to review these notes as you complete your homework.